Welcome to the green room of DisrupTV. We're talking about dodgy coin and NFTs. No, just kidding. We have some awesome guests. We get some great insights. We'll do some reverse. We'll do some reverse introductions. I can't keep a straight face today, but and then we'll start the show. So let's go to Bill and Colin. Bill, tell us where you're calling from, what you're going to be talking about. Colin, the same. We'll jump into John, and then of course with some quick introductions on our end.
Hey, I'm Bill Carr, and I'm here in Sun Valley, Idaho today, and I'm the co-author along with Colin of the book Working Backwards: Insight Stories and Secrets from Inside Amazon.
We're gonna get all the insight things. Colin, what else?
So I'm Colin here from Seattle, Colin Breyer, and worked about 12 years, a little over 12 years at Amazon. Combined, Bill and I worked 27 years at Amazon, so we should be able to answer a bunch of questions about what it was like in the early days and how to turn a small company into a large company.
What he's really saying is they've worked 270 years because a year at Amazon is 10 years, just so everyone knows. All right, John, where are you calling from? What are you going to talk about today?
Hey, John Mellor, calling in from Park City, Utah. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Domo. We're going to talk about virtual events and pivoting from live events to virtual events. Maybe we'll get into some data democratization and all that good stuff about using data in a more efficient way.
Very, very cool. All right. So with that, we're going to do the honors, and Elle, let's kick us off.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guest, your questions live using hashtag DisrupTV, and we will do our best to answer them during the show. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wong. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He is the best-selling author of Disrupting Digital Business. And in July of this year, breaking news, his new book, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, will be his next bestseller. He's a regular television business and technology news contributor. You can see him on Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, and Bloomberg. In my humble opinion, he's one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wong, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar. More importantly, if you follow him on Twitter and social channels, he is the most followed individual from CEOs, CMOs, and CIOs. But more importantly, you can see him in keynotes, talking to executives, working on, he's an author himself. And more importantly, you're going to see him all over talking about where the future is headed. So, but with that, let's start the show and also thank our sponsors, Robots and Pencils. Who do we have here today? So.
Ray, it's our honor to have John Mellor, Chief Strategy Officer at Domo. John brings more than 25 years of technology industry experience to Domo, where he's responsible for shaping Domo's corporate strategy and positioning to meet the dynamic needs of today's data-driven organizations, leaders, and practitioners. Prior to Domo, John served as Vice President of Strategy and Business Operations for Adobe's digital experience business, which was the company's fastest growing business unit, driving more than $3 billion of annual revenue. John joined Adobe through an acquisition of Omniture in 2009, where he served as Executive Vice President of Marketing. You can follow John on Twitter at MellorTime, MELLORTIME. Welcome, John, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. Great to be here. Good times.
You know, it is Mellor time. And, you know, having followed you through your career as well as been at your events and all the stuff that you've been doing, it's been wonderful watching the journey. Last year, like literally, we watched the most amazing virtual event. Like we just started the process. You know, people were like, virtual events, it's going to be okay. And you guys had the most interesting set of circumstances happen at the same time as your virtual event. I'm not going to spoil it, but you pivoted from your awesome live customer event to a 100% digital one and pretty much set the standard. I mean, everybody was like, okay, this is what we've got to do. Talk about it. I mean, talk about what happened and how you did it in 12 business days to do that pivot.
Well, that's high praise. Thank you, Ray. And as much as I've tried to block it out, because it was, as you say, a pretty traumatic experience, it really was one of the very first enterprise customer events that pivoted from being a physical event to a digital event. And you know, it's so interesting. I think of these events as having the kind of two sides to the coin, right? You've got part of the event that is a real forcing function for an enterprise. it brings together marketing, strategy, sales, support, messaging, all that kind of stuff has to get wrapped up into a good bow. And that's just a real positive for these events. But man, and it was in February. Our event was scheduled for late March, and as you know, of course, the pandemic was raging and getting really strong. But it was kind of an unknown. We weren't really clear how much of an impact it was going to have on travel or our ability to do a live event. And we ultimately made the call in the interest of our customers and our community to do it virtual, completely live. But we did that with 12 business days left. So imagine all of the energy that has gone into the previous really year of booking venues, food, hotels, flights, entertainment. And you're so invested in this thing. And when you hear it's going to be 100% online, I think the first thing you do is you get around in a group and you have a little group cry. Right?
You do. You do. Oh my God, I would have cried so hard. So.
And then you quickly pull up your boots and you say, "Hey, it's time. We're gonna do this virtually." And when we made that decision, we set 3 key priorities for the conference. First, we said the content's got to be great. I mean, really, these events are nothing without excellent content. Thought leadership content, practitioner content, customer evidence, that kind of stuff. The second priority we set was attendance. We got to get a lot of people there. I mean, let's look on the bright side. If we're doing an event virtually and we're not asking people to get on planes, we're not asking them to take 3 days off work, we should get a multiple of people coming to this event than that would have come to the live event. And then third was community. And for us, these events, they were so much about community. It's that intimate interaction you have with your customers and your partners that really defines a business, and particularly for Domo. I mean, we do this session at the end of Domo Palooza where it's open mic with the product team. And if you can imagine how terrifyingly wonderful it is to open up the mic to thousands of customers and say, "What do you think about our roadmap? What would you like to see? What's not working? What can we do better?" And but the product team and actually the whole company just thrives on that intimacy with the audience. And we wanted to do everything we could to protect that intimacy. So great content, attendance, and the intimacy.
Real quick, what I meant traumatic, it was not the traumatic experience of trying to do it in 12 days. Did you forget that you had an earthquake a couple hours before the event?
So I'm driving down the canyon to Salt Lake City and my phone starts to blow up. People are, "What is that? What is that?" And I couldn't feel it because I was driving. And I remember texting somebody back and said, "If I see anything that looks like a cloud of locusts, I am going back home." You combine pandemic with the largest earthquake that Utah has had in a few decades. And I got to the event and all of the production staff was in the parking lot. They left. They're like, "Nope, not doing it." And so we had to kind of wait a while and really talk through it before we got in and did the event. But you're right, Ray. That was literally less than 3 hours before the event. We had a major earthquake.
And then after the event, what happened? Like literally after the event, you had the aftershock roll through too.
Oh my gosh, we were doing an event, an investor event after, and it was our CFO was on stage, and you could actually see this giant monitor behind him waving. Oh gosh, I just it was crazy. In fact, I've got this. I'll show you here. This little trophy that we made, folks, says "I survived Domo Palooza 2020. It's got the little coronavirus and it's got the little crack for the earthquake. So we had this motto of people that says, "You can't scare me. I survived Domo Palooza 2020."
That's amazing. That's amazing. John, as the the strategy guy, the chief strategy officer, when you go through a hard pivot like that, What are some lessons learned in terms of speed and relevance and precision, flexibility, community, some of the things that you mentioned that went into creating a successful event? Are there lessons that you learned in terms of strategy that will define this year's event, or even generally define how you look in terms of defining the strategy for the company in terms of how you serve your stakeholders?
Yeah, I think one thing that you see in those situations is the power of action when a decision is made. So there was a lot of limbo in the week or two heading up to the actual point of making the decision to go virtual. And the team wasn't getting a lot of work done because you were just, are we, aren't we, are we? And once that decision was made, we're going completely virtual. Man, that the power of a decision, a known, and rallying around the known is huge. That was a big thing. And I think in terms of lessons learned, I think we talked about the two sides of the coin. You got the internal power of events like this for alignment, but then you've got the external view of the event. And the way I think about it is these events have gone from a 5-course plated dinner to more of a grab and go, right? So usually a customer event where you've got somebody captive for 3 days, it's kind of like the 5-course plated dinner. If you don't love course 3, well, I'm dressed, I'm here, I'm going to power through it. Whereas a grab and go is, if you don't like what you're seeing, you're gone. And so you've got to pivot these events to be more snackable. You've got to think grab and go. Think I've got 3 minutes to 5 minutes max to keep somebody's attention. And then I better have a pivot in media or in presenter or content type. Something's got to change to keep the interest up. And then also realize people aren't going to consume these things linearly. They're going to come and they're going to take one bit today and maybe another bit tomorrow or another bit later today. And so we've pivoted of those 3 principles I talked about of great content, attendance, and just the community. We've kind of pivoted the second one. So yes, we think about attendance, but we're now measuring ourselves on engagement, meaning how much of the content is consumed by the right accounts and the right people at those accounts. So that, I think, is the pivot that we've got to think about in these events is engagement, and engagement on the attendees' terms. Again, it's grab and go.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, yeah, you're basically thinking about going away from the vanity metrics. Before, it's like, great, we got 1 million people watching for like 10 seconds. Like, great. So now you're like, hey, how do we get these guys watching, sharing content, getting stuff in, putting the actionable metrics that are in place? So, but hey, about the conference is really about data democratization. It's really talking about data, how people are using it, what's happening. You've been spending a lot of time talking about this for some time. So why are we still talking about this? Right? Like, why isn't it a reality for companies to be able to access data, use the data, share it, and do all these kind of fun stuff?
Yeah, and Ray, it's funny. Even that word data democratization just kind of scares me. And we're moving into the middle part of the adoption curve. And you get into the middle part of the adoption curve, which is where this has to go, where we all want it to go. And you start using words like data democratization. Like I'm going to a dinner party tonight, and if somebody asks me what I do and I say data democratization, total
you won't get invited again.
I won't be back, man. Who's this guy?
But if I pull out my phone and say, hey, Domo Palooza is coming up, let me show you how many attendees we've got. Boom, boom, boom. Let me show you what companies they're from. Boom, boom, boom. Let me show you how many signed up today. Boom, boom, boom. Then you start to think in terms of what are the benefits of data democratization? That's sort of what's under the hood. I kind of think about it like consumer electronics. There was a time when we all got excited about the Pentium chip. And there's a new chip, there's a faster chip, it's cooler. Now what I think about when I look at my iPhone is, can you imagine how great these pictures are? This thing is amazing. Have you taken a night picture with this? It's incredible. And did you know I can even put it under the water and take a picture underwater? I have no idea what chip is in there or how they did it. I don't care. All I know is it is super useful to me as a consumer. So that's where I want the conversation to go around data. Like, I don't know what's plugged into this thing to make it work, but man, it's useful and it's cool and I can do my job so much better.
Right. It's about better outcomes. Absolutely. Makes total sense. No, so, we talked about the driver behind shifting to virtual events, that being the pandemic. And of course, the other major outcome as a result of pandemic was this decentralized digital only life and work construct. And my question is, now that we've experienced a year of decentralized, mostly digital engagements, is it more, do we have more sense of urgency with company leaders to rely on better data or insights so that we can make faster, better informed decisions? Has the pandemic led to a greater sense of urgency for the need for good data?
Oh, it has accelerated digital transformation by many, many years. In a way, I think of this like it was the Y2K moment for digital transformation. Y2K was kind of a nice to have. Let's upgrade our infrastructure, get an ERP in place. Once the Y2K event was identified, ERP business grew sixfold in 5 years. Just because there was a forcing function. So the pandemic has become a forcing function for data. We've got customers now. We got a customer who runs a big franchise operation for fast food. So now what do they think about when they put in a new location? I've got to get a 6-lane drive-through. It's no longer I need a drive-through. I got to have 6 lanes because that's going to be the majority of my business. Got another customer who specializes in distribution for food across the country, refrigerated food. Well, somebody thinks if I'm really good at logistics for refrigerated food, maybe I should think about supporting the cold chain for vaccine distribution.
Yep.
That's different input. You're forced to think about your business differently. You still have to make key decisions about your business, and you don't want somebody to feed you just speeds and feeds and the new Pentium chip for how to do it. You want them to talk about the benefits of how great your business is going to be when you can make decisions like this.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. We've been talking a lot about decision velocity, right? Humans make decisions 1 per second. You get it out of management committee in 6 weeks if we're lucky. Still no decision. Machines are making decisions 1,000 times per second, right? That is asymmetry is killing folks, and that decision velocity. Was it last week, Vala, we were talking about Chick-fil-A? Or maybe it was this. I don't know what that was.
yeah, the drive-through
experience was like amazing. That's like
they're so efficient.
Yeah. I don't know if you're working with them. You can't tell us if you're not, but we're like, this is the best digitization. It's like the mobile experience, the phone-in experience, the people trained on the ground were just amazing. We're still talking about them. Maybe we'll find the Chick-fil-A CMO to come on board. But yeah, it was just amazing. So, but hey, let's talk about SaaS. What's going on with SaaS? Right? You've been in here a lot. You've been in companies that tried to get from cloud to from on-prem to SaaS, and now you're at pure SaaS companies. What's going on? Right? Where's innovation happening? Why is it working? Is it working fast enough? What gives them an advantage?
Yeah, it's never working fast enough. We'll always say it's never working fast enough. But the thing I love about SaaS is it aligns the customer's priorities with the business's priorities. Right? Customer can choose from 1 month to the next, 1 year to the next of, do I buy again? And the vendor, the business, has got to innovate fast enough to stay ahead of that value curve. So it's really a big benefit on both sides from what I can see. And think about it in a pandemic now. I don't have to touch anybody's servers. I don't even need anybody to go on site to get somebody implemented and up and running and getting value. That's pretty powerful, and that's, I think, a something that the pandemic has helped accelerate even for SaaS companies.
Absolutely. John, this is my final question. As, again, strategy officer for Domo, I'm sure you have clients always asking you for advice. Specifically, when they ask you for advice in terms of improving innovation velocity, they want to go faster and hopefully in the right direction. What do you find as, the most constraint that companies struggle with? Is it culture? Is it talent? Is it technical debt? They're not a SaaS company, so they've got all these on-premise customized solutions that's just not keeping up with today's emerging technologies. What's keeping companies from achieving the proper innovation velocity? Proper meaning staying relevant and growing.
There's an interesting anecdote I like to talk about called it Dude's Law. It's named after a computer science person who looked like the Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski. Call it Dude's Law, and he talked about it as the why divided by the how. When you think of business decisions, why do you need the answer to that question? And the how is, how hard is it for me to get you that answer?
Good old David Hussman.
Yeah, exactly. The lower that output is, the more the easier it is to get those answers, the less cost, the more you're going to do it. So our focus as a vendor at Domo is to reduce the how. We've got to make it easier and easier and easier to ask those questions, so that it doesn't have to be a how do I land a shuttle on Mars kind of why. It can be, I wonder which customers are buying more of this product on a Tuesday in this state. Well, that's an easy question to answer, so now I'm going to ask it. And that helps drive the culture issue. It's data participation, not just data democratization. Democratization sort of implies that it's available.
Yeah.
Data participation implies that people are participating and they're using data to drive decisions.
Terrific distinction.
Awesome.
Terrific. That's really important.
It is the end of Mellor time. Just kidding. We've got to come to close, but this is awesome. Hang out with John and John Mellor, Chief Strategy Officer at Domo, formerly an EVP at Adobe, as you all know. And of course, you can find him on Twitter at MELLORTIME. Real quick, when is Domopalooza? When's the next one?
24th, coming up, just a couple weeks. Sign up, come see us.
Well, hey, it's only a couple of weeks. We know you can prep. We know you can prep in 12 days or less, so we're not even worried about you guys anymore. So thanks a lot for being on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh my!
I like that data participation. It's
data
versus
participation.
access. Really important distinction. Okay, super excited about our next segment. We have Bill Carr and Colin Breyer, co-founders of Working Backwards and authors of Working Backwards, Insight Stories and Secrets from Inside Amazon. Bill and Colin coach executives at both large and early stage companies on how to implement management practices developed at Amazon. Bill joined Amazon in 1999 and spent more than 15 years with the company. As vice president of digital media, Bill launched and managed the company's global digital music and video business, including Amazon Music, Prime Video, and Amazon Studios. After Amazon, Bill was executive in residence with Mavron, an early-stage consumer-only venture capital firm. Bill later served as chief operating officer of OfferUp, the largest mobile marketplace for local buyers and sellers in the U.S. You can follow Bill on Twitter at BillCarr89, and that's Carr with 2 R's. Colin joined Amazon in 1998. This is only 4 years after Amazon, the birth of Amazon, and he spent 12 years as part of Amazon's senior leadership team. Now get this, Colin served as vice president at Amazon, and for 2 of those years, he was chief of staff to Jeff Bezos, aka Jeff's shadow, during which he spent each day attending meetings, traveling with, discussing business and life with Jeff. After Amazon, Jeff served as chief operating officer of e-commerce company Redmark, which was subsequently sold to Alibaba. You can follow Colin on Twitter at CBRYAR. Welcome, Bill and Colin, to DisrupTV.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we'll get Bill off real quick, but it's awesome to have you both here. And, we're going to talk more than 2 pizza teams. We've heard about that. So, but hey, this is amazing, right? Amazon's been one of the digital giants we've been looking at for quite some time, right? For all the monetization reasons. I mean, you've got ad search, you've got goods, services, you've got subscriptions and memberships all firing at the same time. But now, what can anyone in business learn and apply, right, from this amazing winning streak when nobody else seems to be growing? There's something special here that hopefully is applicable to other companies. So I'll start with you guys. Who wants to take that?
could last several hours, but I'll give you the 30-second answer instead. The short answer is that what everyone knows about those exciting products and services that Amazon has built. They all know about Amazon Prime, the Echo, Alexa. They know about AWS. But what they don't know is that Amazon actually developed a whole set of scalable, repeatable processes combined with a set of 14 leadership principles that define what Jeff Bezos once called the invention machine that Amazon has built. And this machine is something that is fractal. It can work for whether you are a company of 5 people or a company of 500,000 people. It can work for whether you're in a B2B business or B2C. It can work for digital media. It can work for any kind of business. And the reason we know this is because Amazon has all those kinds of businesses, and they applied this machine to help create companies starting from zero and to manage these incredibly large global businesses today. And so that's what we wrote about in our book, Working Backwards. And we break this down for everyone so that you can understand how these principles work and how they're knit into 5 scalable, repeatable processes that any company can use.
That's amazing. Can you shed some more light on the title, Working Backwards? And what's the lesson learned from working backwards in terms of customer strategy?
Yeah, working backwards, it's a very specific process at Amazon, and it's the process Amazon uses to take any idea and vet it and decide whether it's worth bringing to market. And this can be as small as what feature do we want to add into an iOS app, or do we want to go into a new line of business or a new type of category expansion? And at its heart, what the working backwards process is it's really starting from the customer experience and then working backwards from that. And how that's different from what a lot of organizations do is a lot of companies use what's called a skills forward approach. They ask questions such as, what are we good at? What are our core competencies? What are our competitors doing? The strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, the SWOT analysis type thing. What are the opportunities and threats? How can we nudge into an adjacent market and grab some market share? But often what's overlooked and not mentioned is the word customer. So Amazon inverted that on its head and really said from the very beginning of an idea, we want to start from that customer experience and work backwards from that. And really the primary tool is a press release and FAQ, frequently asked questions document. So the first thing you do if you have an idea at Amazon is you write a 1-page press release, clearly defining the problem, clearly defining the solution, and why it's good for customers. If you read that press release and you're not excited to go out and buy that product or use it, you go back and do not pass go. You write it over and over again until you move to the next step. And then the frequently asked questions part is really, those are the tough questions that you need to ask and answer to say, how do we organize and move forward to bring this product to market, and make sure you know what you're getting into before. This is all before the project is greenlit.
That's amazing. That's an amazing process. You're building your anticipatory muscle. You're anticipating what your customers can benefit from and the questions that they will have, and you're building that the mind share to be able to get everyone inspired and excited to build before they actually do. That's amazing. That's awesome.
And that's basically, it's like an old Coveyism, begin with the end in mind, right? And that's what's so cool about that. But these kind of cultures are hard to do, right? I mean, the Amazon culture is hardcore. Like from all my friends who work there, it's pretty impressive. And if you think about companies, like a lot of companies have been weakened by remote work, their corporate cultures, right? And what have they learned? What can you learn from Amazon's mechanism for reinforcing the culture consistently? Because you guys act hungry. You guys always act hungry. Always act like a startup, even though you're not a startup, right? There's a mentality and a culture, a work ethos. It's pretty incredible. How is that done and built into that process, working backwards?
Well, the one of the key ways it's done is by being a customer obsessed company. So in many cases, there are 2 different kinds of companies. There are companies that are competitor obsessed or customer obsessed. The problem with being competitor obsessed is if you are so fortunate to actually then become number 1 in any one product category that you are in, what are you supposed to do now? You may rest on your laurels. What's driving you forward? So the answer to your question about what is driving the people at Amazon is if you're customer obsessed, customers are always wonderfully discontent. So as a simple example of this, in the early days of Amazon, when we would, deliver packages to people, it took, an average, like 5 days. And then, and people loved that, but they said, I'd really rather have that sooner, and I'd really rather not, pay for the shipping, by the way. And so over a variety of trials for how to solve this problem, eventually we landed on the Amazon Prime solution, which is great. But even then, once you have that, people say, hey, this is fantastic. I'm glad that I'm getting it in 2 days. But, there's a lot of times when I really could use it like tomorrow, or actually sometimes when 15 minutes from now would be nice. And so if you are focused on your customers, and one of the beautiful things about business in an online business is that you have a very unvarnished and open channel to customer communication, email, customer support. And senior executives, everyone at Amazon, whether you are an individual contributor or senior executive, they read this stuff and they stay in touch with it. And that's what keeps you driven and realizing that my customers are still not content and they need more. And so you operate in this perpetual state of feeling like there's so much more to do.
That's amazing. So Colin, it's not often we get to speak to Jeff Bezos' shadow. And so to tell us, what's the secret behind how new ideas and products are developed in Amazon? I mean, Bill obviously talked about being customer focused. You talked about working backwards, understanding the real value you're bringing to a customer. But is there some secret sauce you can provide some insight to in terms of how an idea grows from someone's thoughts about delighting customer to a multi-billion-dollar business or product?
Yeah, so it's not a one-trick pony. That the customer obsession is key to that. And then like one example is when we were moving from physical media, shipping physical books, CDs, and DVDs. We knew digital was coming. We didn't know how fast it would be coming, but we knew a good chunk of that business was going to be digital. And starting from the customer experience, it took us a while to figure out what would a great digital reading experience look like. And it turns out that we realized that our core business was the value we were creating for the e-commerce business was in the middle. We would aggregate products in our fulfillment centers, throw 2 of them into a box and ship it out to customers relatively quickly. You get a lot of benefit from getting that catalog and consolidating shipping. You don't get any of that in digital. It's non-trivial, but a lot of companies can recreate the catalog of every song ever produced or every movie. So we realized we had to move out to the different ends of the value chain. And on one end was being close to the consumer, which was applications and devices. And we had not made a single device at that time. This is around 2004. But if you really start from the customer experience and you say, well, if we want to be in digital books, we need to build a device that's going to be a great reading experience. We better learn how to do that quickly. And we can't outsource that innovation to someone else because we need to get it to iterate over and over again to improve the reading experience. The same thing happened, by the way, on the other end with the content creation side. Turned eventually into Amazon Studios as a great example for the content creation for video content. And you can look at this type of, starting really obsessing over the customer and figuring out what you need to do for them versus how can you take your capabilities and create something and try to convince the customer to buy what you just created. So, I think that is one reason why Amazon has been able to work on a bunch of different areas and then go deep into these areas and build very large businesses from scratch. The last thing I'll add, very quickly is the spirit of innovation also helps too. For the digital business, Jeff Bezos took the leaders of the largest business, Steve Kessel and Bill Carr, and put them on a non-existent business to go figure out what digital was. The second example is with Amazon Web Services. Andy Jassy, who's now the CEO of Amazon Web Services and is going to become the CEO of Amazon, had just finished his 16, 18-month stint as Jeff Bezos' shadow right before I joined. He could have had any job he wanted to in the company, but he said, hey, there's something here with this web services. I'm going to go in a risky venture and go try to figure out what would eventually become cloud computing. That would be a career ender at some organizations, and that's not at Amazon. Inventing on the behalf of customers, even if there's a chance it may fail, is something that's encouraged and rewarded at Amazon.
Awesome. That's just awesome.
It is
it's
wonderful.
amazing.
A wonderful story. I mean, really thinking about the culture, thinking about the ideas, the thought process that's here. Let's go into what does it mean to develop an Amazonian mindset? You know, you guys both have it. So
yes. As I say to people, you can take me out of Amazon, but you can't take the Amazon out of me. So the Amazonian mindset is really what we try to describe in the book. It's actually a term that people use inside Amazon. They say if someone is behaving in a way that comports with the principles and processes of Amazon, then they say you're being Amazonian. And by comparison, if you're not, then saying you're not being Amazonian. So the simplest way to understand what it means to be Amazonian is to actually look at the Amazon's 14 leadership principles. 14 is a lot. When they were first developed, there were 10 of them, and they've added to that list over the years. And unlike most companies, a lot of companies have some list of values or principles, but in many cases, they don't mean very much. They're a kind of a poster on the wall, but they don't really influence how leaders think and behave. And at Amazon, that's not the case. In fact, that set of leadership principles is used as the screen or mechanism to decide when people are interviewing prospective candidates, are they going to be a good fit at Amazon? And they're also used for performance coaching and feedback. They're also used in nearly every meeting in the company. So when you're making a decision, a good leader at Amazon, there are very few meetings I had where I wouldn't refer to, when trying to arrive at the right decision, refer to one or more of the leadership principles. Like, well, we need to make sure that we're not thinking big enough about this, as an example. Or we really need to, for this problem, we really need to invent and simplify better. We're not simplifying this problem well enough. Or we're not really starting with the customer here. And so these principles are actually a stand-in for Jeff. Jeff, and the leadership team created these basically because, Amazon and Jeff faced the same problem that every entrepreneur CEO who's successful faces, which is at some point, they can't be in every meeting. They can't be in every hiring decision. And so how do they, clone their mindset, clone their thinking, and let it replicate around the rest of the company? And these leadership principles effectively do that. And then more to the point, not only the company actually sought to create several processes that reinforce the leadership principles. So it's not enough just to say the words. You need then to create processes that force people to actually use those principles as how they actually do their work.
I love them. Learn and be curious. It's one of my favorite. Write a lot. I love that one. Have backbone, disagree, and commit. I mean, if every company worked like this, these are some great values that are out there. So
it is amazing. Colin, Bill, this is my final question. I'm a CEO of a company. I read your book, and I absolutely want to adopt a mindset. Is there a first step that I can take as a leader of my organization to start applying the Amazonian mindset in my company, or first step where I can apply some of the 14 principles quickly without ensuring that it's a quality implementation, so that my company can begin thinking and operating and executing like Amazon?
I would say for a smaller organization, if you do not have the leadership principles or core values that define who you are and what makes you unique and how the organization should make decisions when the CEO is not in the room, you need to get those defined pretty quickly. And then the second part, and then for your hiring process, you need to have a very deliberate hiring process where you can vet whether this person coming into the organization will reinforce the culture or detract from the culture. And that's super important for small organizations, because if you have 5 people in your group and you're going to want to go to 15 and you're not deliberate about that, your culture will change to something that you don't know what it will be, and it probably will be something you don't want. For larger organizations, there are a couple of very simple processes that you can adopt tomorrow, after reading the book. Switching from using slides or PowerPoint in order to make complex decisions to narratives, you can do that tomorrow. First couple narratives, there'll be some bumps along the road, but you'll get better and better at that. And the other thing, we talk about how Amazon measures businesses, focuses more on what we call controllable input metrics. And those are things that if you do those things right and you drive them in the right direction, you will your business will have the desired output metrics like revenue, free cash flow. So making sure that you've identified, do I know actually what are the key drivers in my business? Am I measuring them, and can I control them? And how do I drive those in the right direction? Those are things that you can start on immediately. And it's, this is also a journey. It takes a long time to perfect in those things. But those are a few things that you can get started on right away with small organizations.
As I'm listening to you, as I'm listening to you, the requirement for clarity of thought and also a long-term mindset. It seems like you really, to build a strong narrative, you really need to, deep understanding, clarity of thought, quiet mind, and a long-term view in order to have sustainable success. Is that a fair set of requirements to operate in the world of Amazon?
Yeah, and I would just reinforce that long-term thinking does not mean it takes you longer to get to your end goal. Long-term thinking and clarity of thought prevents you from zigging and zagging, which that is non-value add activity. So Amazon was the fastest company from 0 to $100 billion, and Amazon Web Services grew faster from 0 to 10 billion, faster than Amazon itself did. And that was with long-term thinking, clarity of thought. So, stopping to slow down in the beginning often will speed you up and get to where you want to end up quicker than you otherwise would.
This is great. We're getting some awesome insights here with insiders at Amazon, Bill Carr and Colin Breyer, co-founders of Working Backwards LLC and authors of Working Backwards. You can, of course, get the book on Amazon. Follow Bill at BILLCARR89 and Colin at CBRYAR. And if you're looking for executive coaching and workshops and insights that you can help yourself as a leader, definitely check out their organization. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Bill.
for having
Thank you,
us.
Colin. Amazing.
Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Ray, that was so much wisdom.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
That
Well,
was
hey,
amazing.
we're going to wait and we're going to pop in and see our next guest as they channel in. So, all right. So hold it for a second.
Ray, we are delighted to have our next guest. Mavi Zingoni is the Executive Managing Director of Client and Low Carbon Generation at Repsol and a member of the Executive Committee. Repsol is a global multi-energy provider that strives to drive the evolution towards low emissions energy model. In fact, Repsol is the first energy company to make the commitment to reach net zero emissions by 2050, which is aligned with the climate objectives set out by the Paris Agreement and the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. Mavi's responsibilities include managing the renewable electricity generation and low emission assets portfolio with the aim to further grow internationally and expand the business. Mavi is also responsible for designing Repsol's multi-energy and mobility offerings aimed at comprehensively meeting every mobility and energy need. Mavi is the chair of the Repsol Electricity and Gas, which has become a leading player in the commercialization and generation of low-carbon electricity in Spain. You can follow her awesome tweets on Twitter at Mavi Zingoni, MaviZingoni. Welcome, Mavi, to DisrupTV.
Hello, good day to all of you, and thank you for having me here.
Welcome to the show. This is amazing. One of the things that, you don't often talk about is low carbon and energy in the same sentence. And so I think this is really exciting. Let's talk about Repsol and really talk a little about the company, how it got founded, and really what this shift into to meet the SDGs by 2050 are all about. So let's start there.
Thank you, Ray, and again, thank you all for having me here. Repsol, I would say Repsol is an energy company that is very committed to provide the energy that the customer needs whenever that customer needs it. And I'd say that's important. I mean, the commitment is let's provide the energy products and the energy services that the society needs. It is true that our history is a traditional oil and gas company. So we were born as an oil and gas company, but sustainability has always been a constant for us, has always been in our mind. Actually, we were the first company in the sector to support the Kyoto Protocol many years ago. And as you mentioned, Vala, we were the first company back, traditional oil and gas company back in 2019 to commit to be net zero by 2050. But to me, most important that the commitment is that we are not saying, okay, we are going to be net zero in 2050. We are making yearly commitments. So, and that's a key, and that's a differentiator factor in comparison to our peers. We are pioneering this, but we are very happy to see how others are moving towards there. No, so what we are doing right now, if you ask me, what is Repsol? Repsol is a very well-established companies, with 4 clear businesses: the traditional E&P, exploration and production, or traditional upstream; the traditional industrial businesses, refining and chemicals; then the renewables that we are developing, and we have a commitment towards to that; and finally, I'd say what we call the customer-centric businesses, is how we do provide all that energy to our customer, acknowledging that the customers might need different energies in different moments across the day, across the seasons, etc. So that is Repsol, a multi-energy company that with a commitment to thrive in the energy transition.
Yeah, Repsol has such a revered brand in the energy sector. You're operating in 34 countries. You have over 25,000 employees, and you're a pioneer in terms of low carbon, 100% low carbon electricity generation at 3,000 megawatts currently. So, I mean, truly a pioneer, always making forward progress. I love the forward-looking vision of Repsol, a global energy company that creates value in a sustainable manner through innovation. Often when I talk to Repsol, I feel like I'm talking to a technology company. Efficiency and respect to drive progress for society. Tell us your vision about the energy sector. Take us on a journey of what the next few years will look like as you go towards this incredible mission of 2050.
Well, I will try. I don't have the crystal ball, so I will try to say. I mean, how do we see the future? First of all, the energy demand will keep on growing. So we have a growing population in the world. We also have what is a good thing, the development of different economies. So all in all, it means that the growth in demand, in energy demand, is going to be in there, and it's very much linked to the development of the society. So we as a sector, as the energy sector, we need to give an answer to that growing demand. But when we think about how do we need that energy to be? The energy, first of all, it needs to be accessible to all. I mean, it is. We need to bear in mind there is still an important part of the world population that doesn't have access to energy, any kind of energy. So, first thing is the accessibility of the energy. Second, that energy needs to be reliable. So anytime that we switch on, we need to count on that energy. If not, we might think about, for instance, during this COVID situation, what should have happened with the hospitals, with anything that needs the energy. So reliability is also another important component that we need to have. Also, the energy, it needs to be competitive. It needs to be affordable. It should be in a way that we can access to that from a competitive, from the, let's say, a cash standpoint. And for sure, the energy needs to be more and more and more sustainable. What do I mean with all of this? On the one hand, you have a growing need of energy, a growing demand. On the other, you have the new sources of energy. You have, for sure, the electrification of the economy. Electrification is an answer for some sectors. It's an answer for some alternatives or for some needs. But we cannot count on electrification, for instance, at this point for some industrial purposes, or for aviation, or for shipment, or whatever. No. So in the way that we should think about it, I mean, the demand is going to be in there. How would you provide that energy more and more sustainably by counting on all of the energy sources? So even in our mind, in the way that we think about it, I mean, oil and gas will still be an important part of the energy demand. I mean, we can argue if it is going to be 55, 50, or 45% of the demand, but it's going to be around there based on the international agency data. So
Mavi, you got a great point.
Yeah,
you have a great point. I mean, the energy mix is important. Form follows function, right? You can't just force fit something that might not work, especially if you're smelting aluminum. You're not going to be able to do it in certain ways, right? As you're talking about in aircraft situations as well. But let's talk quickly about this evolution of this renewable market that you're talking about here. I mean, this is a huge deal because you're adding, another gigawatt capacity of additional capacity along the way, and you're thinking about, all these new types of sources that are popping up, and you've also reduced CO2 emissions by 4.9 million metric tons from 2006 to 2018. Those are some big numbers. So you're creating that mix, and the energy and the renewable side seems to be, a big investment and focus. So what do you see this evolution of renewable markets, and of course, what we happen in this electrification markets that also kind of exciting part of the market as well?
Well, the demand for electricity will continue to grow, as I mentioned before, with a more and more increasing electrified economy, and also especially in mobility as well. So this increase in electrification is a consequence of the need to decarbonize the economy and the different sectors, and we can do it because there are technical advancements on the one hand, and that's important. And those technical advances, at the same time, they have an impact in what I said before, in the affordability of the different energy sources. So all the advancements, all the technical evolutions in battery, in hydrogen, coupled with also the traditional pump storage that has also been in there as an important renewable source, and all what we have learned so far, that is making the cost of the renewables business, both the solar and the wind farms and the wind technologies, is helping us to go ahead with this growing or fast growing, I would say, renewable sources, and we want to be part. We want to be part of that.
It makes a lot of sense. The culture of Repsol is based on 4 core principles: value creation, respect, efficiency, and anticipation. And again, Repsol was the first energy company that committed to the Paris Accord. You've been a first in investing in artificial intelligence and digitization. And so your ability to anticipate comes from your desire to engage with your customers. I know you personally are in front of the executives of the biggest companies in the world trying to anticipate their needs. What are your customers telling you, especially given last year and this once in a lifetime impact of the pandemic? Can you tell us what their viewpoints are and their expectations, and how Repsol is adjusting to make sure that you're delighting and continuing to add value to your customers?
That's a great question, Vala. In our view, I mean, not only the customers are asking you more transparency on the one hand, they want to be very clear about what they are contracting, what they are consuming. They are hyper connected, so technology and digitalization plays an important part of the game in here. They are very demanding. They are more digital. That's key. They are better informed. So a lot of information that you need to keep in mind as well. With a growing concern on environmental issues. So what we need to do is provide the products and services that they want. And we need to help them in going through that energy transition. So it's not going to be, let's say, switch off fossil fuels button, switch on a new renewable world. So it's going to be, how do we transit? How do we make this transition together? And that is what the customer is demanding us. And on top of that, they want to feel special. We all want to feel special. We want to feel, no matter what we consume, we want to be treated in a very, very personalized way. So, and doing that with the energy is not easy. It's not easy at all. So that is something that we want to do. So on top of being that multi-energy company, so being the ones that provide all the energies that customer needs, and you might need power for your EV while you are out of home. When you are at home, you also need power, and you might need gas, and you probably need gasoline if you have your SUV to go to the mountains, or if you want to the sea, or when you travel and you use the flight indirectly, you are using jet fuel, whatever. So we all need, and also LPG if we go camping and we want to be warmer there, no? So we need to have that in mind. So it means that we are providing, so far, most of the energy companies, we were very much product-oriented. And right now we are changing our focus. We're going to be customer-oriented. So we're going to be your energy provider. So it means that we need to understand who you are on an overall way. We need to provide you an only one experience, and not tell it, no, you need to call to this other number to get power or to get gasoline or for whatever. So it also means that you need to have an omni-channel. You need to make it simple for the customer. It's not an easy journey, no. But it's a journey that we are committed. I mean, it's a great challenge, and it's exciting us.
It really is. Yeah. It's amazing.
I mean,
Ray, I just want to say, so I visited the Repsol headquarters in Madrid and had long collaboration and discussions with the Repsol team. And I said at the beginning of this interview, they're a technology company. It's, all my conversations, let me just share some numbers. And I'm talking technology company leaning into disruptive technology. Repsol has launched 190 digital initiatives to bring the company closer to their customers. Not just upstream, downstream, close to consumer, largest EV charging stations in Spain, largest wind solar farms. I mean, incredible technology and innovation. There are 1,000 people across the company that are working, collaborating for digital transformation. They've partnered with 40 digital leading companies. So they're not just trying to invent things inside of Repsol. It's an ecosystem of trailblazers. And since the digital transformations have taken hold within Repsol, there's 500 new jobs that have been created solely focused on transformation across 10 technology hubs, from analytics to blockchain to AI. It's an amazing amount of work that's happening. Sorry, I just wanted to be clear. In the energy sector, I have not worked personally with a company that's so focused in terms of technology in making sure the future of the company ends up delighting their stakeholders. It's remarkable, Ray. It's remarkable. Sorry, there wasn't a question there. That's just comments.
Yeah, no, it is exciting, right? And when we think about this, the opportunities that digitization have, right, to transform the business, right? And it's not just about the ability to answer any contact center or call or connection point from a customer. You're transforming business models at this moment, right? And that requires a core sense of what does the monetization model look like? How do we actually approach, the customer experience? What does that journey look like on the back end? What does our supply look like, right? And when you bring upstream, downstream, and you bring those things together, that's not easy. That's not an easy piece. So, but how does this digitization transform your company? Like, what have you learned? Some lessons that you want to share with people in terms of this approach? Because you can't just light up 1,000 people all at once to do this. It has to come from a higher purpose to be able to get there.
It's important to have I'd say a shared vision. With a clear ambition. I'd say that our CEO put that ambition, say, okay, I want our P&L to be impacted by 2023 in 1 billion based on all the digitalization changes that we are doing. So it means that all the organization shifts towards that. So a vision and a shared ambition is important. For sure, it requires a new culture, new ways of working. So you can imagine that from a traditional oil and gas company with a risk management mindset, because that is what we have and what we need to have in traditional business. If you are, drilling ultra deep water wells in the middle of Gulf of Mexico, so you need to have that culture to a different culture, and how you make digitalization to be part of that, to be more agile, to be more precise, to help you in with the data. We're applying digital twins in the industrial side of the business. How you help to improve your health and safety standards as well. So that's information that you need to put in there. How the robotics helps you in back office stuff or any industrial stuff. And then it comes, I'd say, probably the most fashionable side, that is how you build new products and new services based on digital tools. So we can make personalized offers based on that. We can have an overall view of the customer based on that. We can build loyalty programs. We can build solar communities based on digital tools. We can also move things to the cloud and save energy and be more energy efficiency based on the digital tools. So you need to put all the digital tools not as a competitor of what you do. I remember the first time that I challenged the team, why don't we have an app to pay in our fuel stations? I'm talking 3 years ago. No, because the people is not going to enter into the store to pay, so they are not going to consume. So listen, the customer of the 21st century doesn't want to consume because we are forcing him to enter into the store. We want to make his experience easier, quicker, simpler, and they are going to consume if we offer them a good value proposition. So bottom end, I mean, we have a better business, more digitalized, with a better interaction with them, and we are providing more and more non-oil around our traditional oil and our new renewables products that we are putting in place. So it's for sure it means a cultural shift, and once you see results, we keep on moving. What is good? I mean, we need to understand that competitive advantages in nowadays, I mean, they last for 5 minutes. I always tell the team, listen, we need to think in the way that Amazon cannot deliver the gasoline yet. That's the word that I like to emphasize. No?
I love it. How great is it? How great is it to have an executive from the energy sector talk about digital twins, mobile apps,
awesome.
smart robotics?
Awesome. We're out of time. We could be doing this for 40 more minutes.
It was amazing. I really just what an incredible amount of effort and energy that's going into really transforming Repsol, and really appreciate your thought leadership and continue to be a role model in the industry and society. We're all looking for Repsol to lead the industry in terms of transformation, and you're doing that as a trailblazer. So congratulations.
Amazing. We are here with Mavi Zingoni, Executive Managing Director, Client and Low Carbon Generation, Chair of Electricity and Gas at Repsol, and of course, promoting the energy transition. So thanks a lot so much for being here. You can follow her at MaviZingoni. So thanks for being here on Disrupt TV.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hey, this is crazy. What an interview. I mean, that was amazing. So
it's great to see, the energy sector, which you wouldn't necessarily think is, a leading sector when it comes to digitization, and, the 10 different technology hubs that they have, and the focus on really getting to a renewable energy, as she said, perhaps greater than 50% of, the company's products is incredibly admirable and inspiring. So a great interview.
I know. This is crazy. This is our March Madness. We've got some like heavy hitters all throughout March and April. Who we've got coming next week?
Yeah, please go to the Disrupt website to get a sense of who the guests are for the next couple of months. But as far as next week, episode 227, and we're only a handful away from our 700th interview on Disrupt TV during the course of the last 5 years. Scott Galloway is our first guest, author of Post-Corona, From Crisis to Opportunity. Scott's a multi-best-selling author, a digital influencer, and an incredible thought leader. So we're delighted to have Scott. Grant Halloran, CEO of Planful, and Rachel Friesen, head of community and advocacy for PagerDuty. So 3 incredible thought leaders and practitioners, and it's going to be an amazing show. Just like this episode, 226.
I know this episode is amazing, but just to give people an idea of the magnitude of guests we've got coming, we've got Mary Hamilton from Accenture. She's an MD on innovation. Clara Sheaf, she was on the board of Starbucks. She still is, I believe. She's CEO of a service cloud at Salesforce. We got the Ministry of Common Sense by Martin Lindstrom. He'll be here. I mean, lots of folks coming down. Perry Hewitt, one of the first chief digital officers, is coming back. We got Raja Manar from MasterCard talking quantum marketing, and Teresa Barreria at Publicis Sapient is coming back. We got big guests coming. This is huge, man.
Yeah. Raja is an incredible CMO. We're going to learn a lot from Raja. I've been following him on Twitter for many years. He's terrific. Yeah, great lineup. And, we have a fair number of people that tune in to Disrupt, not just the live Disrupt, but throughout the week. So we really appreciate you, and let us know. Let Ray, myself, our producer, Elle, know who you want to see on the show. We're typically 2 to 3 months booked, so whomever you suggest, we'll try to get into the June, July, August, and end of year timeframe. But we're always open to suggestions.
Yeah, we're always open to suggestions. Every Friday, join us 11 a.m. Pacific. If it's Friday, it's Disrupt TV. Join one of the top enterprise tech podcasts in the world. So thank you for being here. So take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.